Unveiling the Sinister Secrets, 7 terrifying rituals that cursed a town for 25 haunted years in Millfield. Darkness crept in with the whisper of wind through the trees. The town's sleepy charm was shattered the moment the antique shop flung its doors open, revealing relics that felt more alive than the people buying them. Sarah and her son Tommy, just a pair of ordinary souls living in their small, white house surrounded by a picket fence, had no idea what nightmares awaited them. When Tommy's curiosity drew him to the shop's cluttered shelves, he found an old journal hidden beneath a dusty, rickety bookshelf. The words spilled dark secrets of the town's past, revealing rituals meant to protect Millfield from an ancient evil. But those words didn't just creep into his mind, they clawed at his heart. That night, the visions began, a chilling terror graphically defined by dark figures hovering outside his window, their whispers chilling his skin like ice. He awoke, breathless, with sweat-soaked sheets clinging to his trembling body. He couldn't escape their haunted presence. As early morning light broke, a heavy air descended over Millfield. Pets went missing. Neighbors exchanged fearful glances over steaming mugs at the diner, the aroma of fresh coffee laden with something sour. Sarah tried to brush it off, convincing Tommy it was just their imagination running wild. But she'd soon find herself neck-deep in unsettling events: the tapping on window panes at 3 in the morning, the knotted feeling in her stomach that grew heavier with every passing day. "Mom." Tommy's voice quivered, breaking the tension. "What do you think is happening?" "I don't know, honey," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, doubt creeping into her mind. "Probably just a coincidence." But Tommy's nightmares spiraled out of control. Creaks echoed from the empty hallways at night, shadows flapped wildly across walls, and the very air felt suffocating. When Sarah heard the stories about Mr. Hawkins, the town historian, the one who always regaled them with tales of Millfield's history, doubt gnawed at her like rats gnawing through a rotting apple. The townsfolk gathered in whispers, murmurs settling like ash in the air. They urged her to steer clear of that shop, as if succumbing to a curse that had laid dormant. "Can't you see it?" Tommy's eyes were wide, haunted. "It's connected to those rituals." Desperation clawed at Sarah's throat. She racked her brain, piecing together how the town's pristine exterior hid a sinister heart of secrets. As fear swallowed her, the realization pulsed in her veins: something wicked had awoken. As night fell on Millfield like a suffocating blanket, thunder rumbled ominously in the clouds. Tommy and Sarah huddled together, a fragile fort against the night. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. But the shriek of wood splitting echoed in their ears, and shadows writhed almost mockingly around them, as if the darkness had eyes. Right then, a deafening roar erupted from the antique shop, rattling their bones, sending them diving under the table. The chilling truth danced before them like flames: time was running out. Could they fend off this creeping horror, or would Millfield's ancestors claim them as the last sacrifices for a sinister pact? The whispers grew louder, daring them to step into the secrets of the night. The thunder rolled like a drumbeat of impending doom as Sarah and Tommy clung to each other beneath the dining table, heartbeats sinking in a frantic rhythm. The air was thick, suffocating. A creak yawned through the house, louder than the storm outside, as if the very foundation of their home was straining under the weight of what lurked in the shadows. "Mom, what if it's here?" Tommy's eyes were wide, reflecting the flickering candlelight that cast ghastly shadows along the walls. "What if it comes for us?" Sarah felt a chill crawl down her spine. She had fought to hold on to reason, to distract Tommy from the terror creeping into their lives. "It's just the wind," but even she couldn't finish the sentence, not with the oppressive silence that followed. Another crash echoed from the antique shop. It shouldn't have sounded that loud. Instinctively, she wanted to run, to bolt out of the house and escape this nightmare, but where could they go? Millfield was haunted, its secrets wrapping tighter around her like a noose. A keening wail split the air, reverberating through the wooden walls as if the house itself was crying out in pain. It wasn't just the wind. This was something far more sinister. It clawed at sanity, digging into her mind like jagged nails. Sarah gripped Tommy's small hand tighter, feeling his trembling articulating the understatement of their plight. As another crash resounded, she pushed herself up from under the table, adrenaline surging through her veins. "We have to see what's happening," she said, though every fiber of her being screamed against it. "Mom, please don't," Tommy begged, his small body shaking with fright. But at that moment, the door to the antique shop swung violently open, the sharp smell of decay rolling in like a fog. With every instinct honed by motherhood now racing to the surface, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped towards the menacing blackness. The shop loomed like a great beast, its shadows twisting and pulsating beyond her reach. They crept closer, their mere presence tugging at her sanity. With no other choice, she took Tommy's hand, and they moved cautiously, stepping outside into the chaos of the storm. The raindrops stung her skin like tiny needles, and the wind shrieked, playing tricks on her senses. Inside the shop, the air was heavy with whispers and a damp chill. As they crept through the darkened aisles, Tommy's eyes darted to every corner, fear etched deep across his innocent face. Sarah squinted into the shadows. Something was moving. A figure shambled past, an indistinct silhouette that flitted behind a dusty display. "Hello." Sarah's voice rang out. "Mom, don't." Tommy whimpered, pulling back. But something snapped at the edges of Sarah's mind, and she pressed forward. The shadows retreated, every corner harboring secrets and wrongdoings of the past. Through the haze of darkness, she spotted the journal Tommy had found. Its pages fluttered, as if inviting her into its cursed history. "Tommy, look," she stammered, pointing to the journal. But as they approached it, a low growl reverberated around them, the sound vibrating through her bones. Then suddenly, with a flash of light, the candles lit up, illuminating a wall plastered with disturbing images, ritualistic symbols, bloodied handprints, and the eyes of those who had once been part of Millfield's dark secrets, staring hollowly into the night. Time froze. A heart-stopping realization crashed over them. These were not just images, they were warnings. The town had cursed itself long ago, and now it was reaching for them with a sense of grim foreboding. Sarah turned to Tommy, who was on the verge of tears, his small frame trembling. "We need to get out of here now." But as they turned to leave, the doorway was consumed by darkness, shadows coiling like snakes, blocking their escape. The whispers crescendoed, tinged with malice, pulling at the very essence of their souls. "What are we going to do, Mom?" Tommy cried, panic ricocheting off the walls. The darkness answered with a chilling crescendo, the shadows tightening their grip. Was there a way to break the town's curse? Was the ancestral horror too far gone to be stopped? As they stood there, swallowed by uncertainty, the shrieks of the past loomed closer, demanding their reckoning. What would Sarah choose to sacrifice to save her son? The darkness waited, hungry and patient. The shadows shifted and closed in, thickening like a fog, surrounding them in an oppressive embrace. Sarah's heart pounded, a frantic drum echoing in her chest. The whispers had become a cacophony, swirling about her like a malevolent wind, curling around their bodies as if they were physically drawn towards the source of the terror. "Stay close to me," she urged, her voice a thin thread of resolve. Tommy clutched her leg, his small fingers digging into the fabric, grounding himself against the maelstrom of fear. From the blackness, silhouettes formed twisted shapes of despair that flickered and melted at the edges. Sarah's breath caught as they began to whisper, words lost in an indecipherable murmur, but the deep, primal dread clawing at her stomach told her they spoke of her of them. The air grew colder, whispering chilling secrets that felt like claws raking against her skin. Suddenly, a loud bang jolted through the shop, causing the candles to flicker wildly, casting frantic shadows that danced like tortured souls. A glass jar shattered nearby, shards scattering like the remnants of hope. The wailing returned, weaving around them, entwining their hearts in a snarl of despair. Mom. I can't. Tommy's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. You can, she urged, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. We need to stay strong. But her mind spun wildly, clamoring for a solution while her instincts screamed to flee. As they moved deeper into the darkness, compelled by a force they couldn't comprehend, a chilling realization hit Sarah. These shadows weren't just remnants of the past, they were alive, watching, hungry for recognition. Each whisper felt like a beckoning, familiar yet terrifying, igniting memories she couldn't grasp. There, in the dim light, Sarah spotted a figure emerging from the shadows, its face obscured, body hunched and trembling. It stepped closer, revealing the bruised visage of a man with haunted eyes. His lips curled into a smile that sent an ice-cold shiver rattling through her bones. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Tommy, he crooned, his voice an oily whisper that oozed menace. We've been waiting for you. Who are you? Tommy's voice cracked, a thin veneer of courage. I am but a keeper of the tales. Bound to this town as much as you are, he replied, his gaze piercing through the dark, locking onto Sarah with an unsettling intensity. You've come to inquire about the curse. The rituals that sever the souls from their bodies. The blood cannot be erased. Sarah felt anger flare up, but the fear quickly snuffed it out. We just want to leave. We want to get out of here. The keeper's face twisted, a malevolent grin spreading. Ah, but to leave, you must first understand. To understand is to face the past. Accept the dark and find the light, or remain entangled within the shadows forever. Enough. We don't have to listen to you. Sarah shouted, grabbing Tommy's hand, her voice full of defiance. But the shadows tightened, pulling her back, whispering secrets of betrayal, lost hopes, and faces of those who lived and died within this cursed town. Mom! Tommy screamed, yanking her to stop in desperation. Don't let them take you. But it was too late. The keeper raised his hands, summoning shadows that lunged at Sarah, their cold touch seeping into her very being. Images flashed through her mind, visions of the town's past marred with blood, anguish, and despair. In that moment, a glimmer of clarity broke through the madness, a choice like the flicker of a candle. Would they confront the dark rituals that had bloodied generations, or be forever trapped in this cycle of horror? Fighting back, Sarah felt the words rising within her. No. We refuse to be a part of this. But just as she spoke, a deafening roar echoed through the shop, shaking the very air they breathed. The shadows writhed and recoiled, responding violently to her defiance. The keeper's expression turned to rage, twisting in an unholy rage. At that instant, a flash of light erupted, illuminating the wall once more, and with it, a hidden door revealed itself. Behind the chaos. Run! Sarah shouted, instinct overriding her fear. She seized Tommy's hand, the warmth anchoring her. They dashed toward the flickering glow, hearts racing, as the town's long-held nightmares clawed at their backs, desperate to keep them tethered. But as they approached the opening, the ground beneath them shifted, a loud crack reverberating through the air. The keeper's chilling voice boomed, "This is not over. The curse will follow you." And with that, the world splintered apart, their only escape growing smaller in the cacophony of screams and shadow. As the darkness reached out, threatening to swallow them whole, would they find refuge beyond the hidden door, or would Millfield's curse claim them in the end? As they dove forward, a single thought echoed in Sarah's mind: what would be waiting for them on the other side? They stumbled through the door, a blinding light engulfing them. Sarah's lungs burned and her heart raced as they fell onto a patch of cold earth, the sharp smell of damp soil filling her senses. The world behind them had exploded into a chaotic tempest of shadows and screams, but here, amid the sickly silence, a tremor of hope sparked in her chest. Where are we? Tommy's small voice pierced through the heavy air, quaking with uncertainty. Sarah pushed herself to her feet, brushing dirt off her clothes. I don't know. But we have to keep moving. She could still feel the echoes of the keeper's voice lingering in her mind, a relentless whisper that threatened to reassemble the nightmare they had just escaped. As they ventured further down the narrow passageway, they came upon a narrow beam of light spilling in from ahead. The walls were etched in darkened stone, pulsating like a living entity under their touch. She had read tales of ancient tunnels, but this felt different, heavier. Emerging into the light, they found themselves in an abandoned plaza, its cobblestones slick with moisture. Time seemed suspended, the air thick with the scent of decay. The buildings loomed like specters, their windows hollow and dark, as if they were watchful eyes waiting to descend upon them. "What is this place?" Tommy whispered, clutching Sarah's hand tightly. "Somewhere, forgotten." A chill danced down her spine. From the far end of the plaza, an old sign creaked on rusted hinges, painting the words Millfield in faded letters. The biting realization hit hard. They were still in the cursed town. The shadows hadn't released them, they had merely been temporarily blinded. "We need to find a way out. There must be something here." Her voice trembled, both from fear and determination. She scanned the empty street, searching for any sign of life, any glimmer of escape, but only silence responded, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Then a rustling sound broke the stillness, a faint echo of movement in the shadow of a building nearby. Sarah froze, heart pounding against her ribs. Was it another figure? One of the shadows? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Tommy squeezed her hand, pressing closer. "Mom. Stay behind me," she whispered, trying to sound brave even as shadows flickered at the corners of her vision. Sarah stepped forward, every instinct screaming at her to retreat, but something guided her onward. It felt like a call, a thread woven through the darkness. As they approached, the figure emerged. It was a woman, pale as the moon, with eyes clouded over as if she were lost in a dream. Her voice was barely a whisper, almost lost among the echoes of despair surrounding them. "You need to leave. Before they come." "Who? What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, desperation tightening her throat. "They will come for you. The shadows, they'll know you are here." The woman's fingers trembled violently, and she pointed at a doorway behind her, a door that had not been visible moments before. "You must go through. Only then can you find the truth." "No. We need to find a way out of Millfield." Sarah insisted, her heart heavy with the weight of the woman's haunting gaze. "The curse binds you to the land, but the truth resides beyond the door. You must confront it or live forever in the shadow's grasp." The words hung over her like a thick fog. As the warning resonated, the whispers returned, louder and more fervent than before, slithering between them, urging Sarah to dive deeper into this unknown. But as she hesitated, shadows loomed from the corners of her eye, creeping closer, taunting them with dread. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath her feet, the rumble of something primal awakened. The plaza around them trembled with malevolence, and the woman's eyes widened, filled with terror. "Go. Now. Mom, please." Tommy cried, his voice a dart of panic. The weight of uncertainty burrowed into Sarah's chest. "We'll be okay. We'll figure this out." But her voice wavered, every instinct warned her that they were running out of time. Then, with a final, desperate push, she threw herself through the mysterious doorway, dragging Tommy along, the light fading behind them as crumbling shadows surged forth. What lay ahead was shrouded in enigma, a realm of agonizing truths and dark revelations. Sarah's gut twisted with anxiety. Would they break free of the curse, or would they step into a darker trap? As the door slammed shut behind them, a bone-chilling laugh echoed through the air, a promise that Millfield's horrors were far from over. The door creaked, reverberating in the silence like a warning bell, and then it fell still. Darkness engulfed them, thicker than before. A dense fog danced at Sarah's feet, curling and writhing, as if alive. She could feel it creeping up her ankles like icy fingers, and dread pooled in her stomach. "Mom. Mom." Tommy's voice wobbled, fading in and out of the encroaching darkness. She turned, reaching for him, her fingers brushing against the cool fabric of his shirt. "I'm here," she managed to say, her throat constricted, pulse racing like a runaway freight train. The murmur of whispers emerged again, not the gentle calls of the woman they had just escaped, but haunting wails emanating from deep within the shadows. They coiled around her, filling her ears with desperate cries that morphed into sinister laughter. The sound twisted her insides, each laugh like a knife scraping against her bones, chilling her to the core. "Stay close," she muttered, squeezing Tommy's hand. They began to move through the darkness, each step heavy with anticipation. The air felt charged, as if inviting something sinister to awaken. As they inched ahead, shapes began to materialize from the blackness. She recognized them as memories, ghostly silhouettes of people trapped in a cycle of despair. Their eyes were devoid of hope, their mouths stretched in silent screams. Sarah, one figure moaned, reaching out. She recognized the contours of a young girl's face. A shiver swept through her as she whispered the name, Emily. "Let us keep moving," Sarah urged, her voice shaking. She pulled Tommy along, but each step became harder as the phantoms lunged forward, clawing at the air. Some had once been friends, neighbors, others, faces she never wanted to remember. "Where are we?" Tommy's voice broke through the cacophony of sorrowful ghosts, but Sarah had no answer. They had left Millfield, but it still clung to them, a parasite of fear. Waves of despair washed over her as the whispers grew louder, revealing horrid tales of their cursed town, each word seeping into her skin. Rituals performed in secrecy, families torn apart, and blood spilled on the ground beneath her feet, a reminder of what lurked in the history of Millfield. "Do you feel that?" Tommy asked, fear glimmering in his wide eyes. Before she could reply, a rumbling sound echoed in the distance. The phantoms stiffened, their eyes darting to something unseen. "It's here," the whispers hissed in unison, swirling around them, filling the air with a gnawing fear that threatened to suffocate her. Sarah felt her heart thrumming in her ears. She had to find a way out, some kind of escape route. "Over there!" Tommy yelped, pointing toward a faint flicker of light breaking as a thin shard of hope against the encroaching shadow. But as they raced toward it, the ground beneath them shuddered again, and the shadows wrestled with each other like wild animals. Something monstrous was awakening, lurking behind the darkness, drawn by their presence. A shadow materialized, growing larger, taking form before them. A skeletal figure cloaked in black, malice radiating from it like heat, eyes burning with crimson light. "Leave this place," it growled, voice scraping like nails on a chalkboard. "Or you will join the damned." Sarah's breath quickened as she reeled back, pulling Tommy close. "Keep moving. We can't stop," she screamed, the urgency clawing at her chest. But the shadows shifted, blocking their escape. What would they do now? Face the creature? Or push through the weight of the darkness? Just as the figure lunged forward, the ground beneath them erupted in a blinding flash of light. Sarah shielded her eyes, bewildered, as the darkness shrieked in fury. Would this light save them, or trap them once again? The light blinked, slowly fading, leaving behind only echoes of torment and terror. As the echoes subsided, the shadows retreated, revealing a boundless expanse beyond, a twisted garden where the grotesque flowers screamed in muted agony. "Tommy, we need to find a way back," she breathed, desperation clawing at her. But as they took their first steps into this nightmarish realm, she knew that creature would not let them leave, and the choice remained: confront the creature, or be forever lost within Millfield's sinister grasp. The garden loomed ahead, an array of deformed flora that seemed to pulse and writhe, reacting to their presence. The flowers were a sickly green, mottled with bruised purples and reds, each petal a twisted mockery of beauty. She could almost hear them groan, a low and haunting sound that harmonized with the distant whispers. "Mom, I don't like this," Tommy squeaked, clinging tighter to her hand, his small fingers clammy in her grip. "Neither do I," she admitted, forcing her voice to be steady. Fear coiled in her stomach, squeezing tighter with each step. The ground was soft, almost like walking on flesh. With every footfall, she imagined an echo resounding beneath her, a billion tiny murmurs trapped, desperate and pleading. What had she stumbled into? Millfield's horrors had only just begun to unfold. They pressed deeper into the garden, where the air thickened, each breath tasting metallic, as though iron lay hidden in the fog. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, darting away whenever she turned to look. She wished she could shake the feeling that they were being watched, plotted against by an unseen host. "Mom," Tommy whimpered again, glancing around. "I think I saw something over there." A flicker caught Sarah's eye, a dark figure shuffling behind the flowers. She squinted, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. "We have to keep moving," she urged, although her instincts screamed for her to run the other way. Suddenly, a low, rumbling growl filled the air, vibrating through their bones. The sky above, a roiling mass of blackened clouds, groaned in response. The flowers bent and twisted, as if bowing before a powerful force teetering just out of sight. "Mom! I can't breathe!" Tommy gasped, panic flashing across his face. "Just a little further. I see something." Sarah pointed ahead, at a discolored stone archway standing defiantly amidst the plant horrors. It pulsed with a faint glow, its surface slick and glistening like a fresh wound. She felt the pull of it, like a beacon amid the torment. But a sudden rustle from the garden sent her nerves skyrocketing. Out from the foliage, something slithered, a long, sinuous body with skin that glimmered, reflecting the dim light with an unsettling allure. It moved with chilling grace, its head weaving, fixating on them with yellow-green eyes that bore into her soul. "Run!" she screamed, yanking Tommy along as they darted towards the archway. The creature hissed, a sound like sulfur burning, and as they neared the glowing stones, more shapes emerged from between the flowers. Shadows melded into form, sorrowful souls drawn to the scent of fresh fear. The air grew colder, sharp and biting, freezing the blood in her veins. "Get inside!" she shouted as they reached the archway, but the moment they moved to pass through, an invisible barrier slammed against them, throwing them back like rag dolls. "What is happening?" Tommy cried as they hit the ground, breathless. The shadows around them began to swirl, forming a grotesque whirlpool of faces, distorted, mouthless figures screaming soundlessly as they reached out with claw-like hands, grasping for any warmth. A figure materialized from the shimmering fog, cloaked in tattered robes that whispered of ancient days. "You seek freedom, but to escape, one must give in to the sin that binds this accursed garden." "What sin?" Sarah demanded, terror clawing at her throat. "Choose," the figure rasped, a hollow sound echoing in the stillness. "Sacrifice or submission. One will lead to salvation, the other to damnation." Before she could protest, the ground trembled again, and the lights flickered in response. The flowers shrieked once more, a cacophony that drove shards of fear deep into her heart. Would they have to surrender something apart from themselves? A piece of their very souls? "Mom, what do we do?" Tommy was shaking, his voice trembling. A question loomed in the air, heavy with consequence. They were trapped, with dreadful options ahead and lurking dangers behind. Answer quick, or remain forever entangled with secrets as old as time. The figure beckoned, the darkness tightening around them, and in that moment, Sarah understood the price of safety might demand more than she could afford to give. What horrors awaited them, should she choose wrong? The air thickened around them, pressing in with palpable dread as the spectral figure loomed closer. Its faceless features were indistinguishable beneath layers of tattered fabric that fluttered as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, an oppressive reminder that time was running out. "Mom!" Tommy's voice was a fragile whisper, clinging to her leg. Sarah felt her resolve wavering, a storm of fear and uncertainty swirling inside her. What could be the sin this garden craved? What price would they pay? "Choose," the figure rasped, its sound reverberating throughout the garden. "Sacrifice or submission. One leads to salvation." The shadows writhed closer, their clawed hands reaching through the murky air, impossible faces flickering in and out of sight. She could see their eyes, empty sockets of despair that begged to escape their eternal prison. "Tommy," she said, struggling to sound brave. "We can't give in. We need to push through, do you understand?" We find a way out. But what if we have to choose? His voice quivered, and Sarah could see the panic tightening around him like a noose. No. She couldn't let him think like that. Just hold on to me. Another growl rumbled in the distance, louder and more menacing. The ground trembled beneath them, and the archway pulsed, its glow flickering as if it might die altogether. Behind her, the whispering grew louder, merging into one malignant chant that filled her mind with doubt, thoughts of surrender swirling like a tempest. In that moment of fear, something ignited deep within Sarah, fueled by the instinct to protect her son. No! She shouted defiantly. I will not choose. The figure paused, shrouded in silence as the shadows halted, momentarily stilled by her refusal. Defiance will feed the hunger of this garden. You will pay dearly for your unwelcome courage. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat, but she focused on Tommy, on the steady rhythm of his breath. We have to fight this. We have to find a way. With determination, she yanked Tommy towards the archway again, desperately trying to find a way through the invisible barrier. The flowers, she thought, glancing around at the grotesque blossoms. What if they're the key? She turned back to the cloaked figure. What if my choice is to destroy this place? To root out its evil? A sinister chuckle echoed like dark thunder, reverberating through the silent garden. To destroy is a choice. But to destroy the garden means destroying yourself. As she hesitated, lost in a swirl of doubt, the shadows surged forward, an angry tide eager to claim their prey. Teeth bared, the figures lunged, and Sarah could feel the icy fingers snatching at her clothes, gripping her heart with frozen terror. Mom! Tommy screamed, and she felt his warmth slipping away as shadows coiled around him, dragging him toward the glaring maw of darkness. Tommy! She lunged forward, grasping his wrist with a strength she didn't know she had. I want to let go. But the shadows pulled back, a powerful force threatening to rip them apart. The tattered figure watched, an unnerving stillness in its gaze, observing this dance between hope and despair. Choose. It whispered again, tauntingly. Or be consumed by the garden. With every nerve screaming, Sarah knew it was time to make a choice, but fear clawed at her throat. Would she choose the threat of the garden over her son's safety? Could she really sacrifice anything, including herself, to escape its grasp? The shadows surged, and the air chilled to frost. What would she sacrifice? What piece of herself would she surrender to the depths of Millfield's curse? Tommy. Then she felt a dark power igniting inside her, as though she was the very fire that blazed against the night. Mom, I'm scared. Tommy cried, eyes wide with terror. His voice shattered her hesitation. It was time to act, to uncover the hidden truth, but what sacrifice would truly keep them alive? Then together she muttered, bitterness and resolve combining into a fierce flame. We'll find out what we must. Give. The garden shuddered in response, eager and hungry as darkness closed in. Would they escape this nightmare, or would their fates intertwine with the sinister secrets of Millfield forever? The shadows roared, pulling tighter around Tommy, their cold grip clawing at Sarah's desperation. She felt the chills seep into her bones, her heart pounding in a rhythm of fear and fury. They were near the edge of some unfolding torment, an epitome of their worst nightmares. Tommy, listen to me. She gasped, her voice cracking but striving to sound strong. Whatever happens, don't let go of me. We're in this together. He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks, pure terror gripping his small frame. Just then, the cloaked figure laughed again, a low, rumbling sound that sent chills through the garden. Unity will not shield you, it hissed. You enter, you sacrifice. Tommy's fingers trembled against her skin, and Sarah turned to the grotesque flowers blooming around them. Their colors twisted deep crimson and sickly greens, petals glimmering with an unnatural sheen that drew her gaze like a moth to a flame. We can burn them. We can destroy their hold. She yelled, punctuating her words with a sudden, wild energy. Releasing Tommy's hand briefly, she lunged at the nearest flower, her palm connecting with a cold, clammy petal. Electric pain shot through her arm, as if the essence of the garden lashed out in fury. A vision flashed before her, a bright fire consuming everything in its path. Would that be the answer or just another trap? Mom! Tommy's voice was a shrill, wavering note. Don't touch that. No, no, I have to. She grit her teeth, clenching her fist, fighting against the throbbing pulse of fear creeping back in. Around her, shadows slinked, whispering her doubts and crafting insidious stories from her fraught memories. Look how they've led you here, the figure cooed, each word thick with malice, feeding her anxiety. Together at the altar or set apart in agony. Which do you choose? The air stilled, as if the garden itself held its breath. In that moment, Sarah felt the full weight of the decision looming, a violence in the silence that made her stomach twist. Tommy, she breathed, turning back to him, urgency igniting her. If I destroy this place, will it save us? Will you still be safe? He shivered, clinging to her. I don't know. What if it hurts you? His innocence cut through the fear, bringing clarity amidst chaos. She recalled stories of brave mothers sacrificing for their children, legends woven tightly together with threads of courage and love. I can't leave you, she said firmly, her heart swelling with fierce resolve. But what if we each give something? A part big enough to break the hold? Tommy nodded, the understanding settling in his wide eyes. Together they approached the flowers. The closer they got, the more the shadows encroached, and the spectral figure fussed, dark eyes glimmering with anticipation. But how would they decide? What could they possibly sacrifice? A memory? Their connection? Maybe our tears can feed this garden's hunger, Sarah suggested, rasping through clenched teeth. Maybe the anguish we've faced can finally uproot its grip. Before she could talk herself out of it, she pressed her fingers deeper into the bloom, feeling the liquid sorrow pooling inside as warmth bled from her heart. It pulsed, an echo of something she couldn't quite identify but felt profoundly true. Do it, Mom! Tommy cried, lifting a small stone from the ground, raising it above his head, determination igniting in his tiny form. Together. The shadows lunged, sensing their rebellion, claws slashed through the air, hungry for despair. Her heart raced, every moment swirling like a storm around them. Bolstered by purpose, Sarah and Tommy pressed forward, intertwining their sacrifices, tears mingling with the dark essence of the flowers. What would erupt from this union? Would they succeed in unearthing the sinister roots of this curse, or would their sacrifices summon something darker? As they poured themselves into the garden, the shadows writhed, screaming their rage. And in that terrifying moment, the ground trembled, a deep rumble echoed, as something ancient stirred awake. Would their sacrifices be enough to tear through the malevolence, or would they wake something far worse in their desperate quest for survival? The ground shook violently beneath them, bursting with energy as if the very earth was screaming in protest. Sarah felt it rattle through her bones, deep and unforgiving. Hold on, Tommy! She shouted, her voice lost amidst the chaos. The cloaked figure's laughter echoed, a cacophony of malice that drowned out everything else. Your tears, your anguish, it will only summon me more. It taunted, each syllable soaked in a grim delight. Shadows swarmed like a living entity, wrapping tightly around their legs, pulling them down into an abyss of darkness. Sarah's mind raced. The vision of fire lingered, flickering at the edges of her consciousness like a distant lighthouse in a storm, guiding them. We have to ignite it. She screamed through gritted teeth. We have to burn it all. But the shadows twisted and morphed. Tendrils of black flared out, striking like vipers, aiming for any flesh they could touch. Sarah felt a frigid grasp around her throat, squeezing tight. Panic clawed at her mind. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a battle for their very souls. Mom! Tommy's cry pierced through her daze, clear and sharp. His small hands grasped at the tendrils, trying desperately to pull them away. Don't let go. No matter what, my love, she breathed, pulling a deep inhale, drawing strength from the boy who nestled so close to her heart. Together. With a burst of resolve, she leaned into the darkness, focusing on that vision of fire. Sarah searched within the flickering shadows, concentrating hard on the pain, the sorrow they shared. She willed every ounce of fear to transform into something more powerful, a relentless flame that could consume them all. At that moment, it happened. A pulse of warmth surged in her chest, igniting, a wildfire spreading through her veins. Flames erupted from her outstretched hands, living breath that surged through the tendrils pulling on her throat. The shadows shrieked, an unholy symphony of despair. "Tommy!" she shouted, feeling the heat surround them both. "Now! Together, we ignite it." With trembling hands, he placed the stone against the flowers. "I want to be brave, Mom," he shouted, his fear morphing into something fierce. "Let us do it." The instant their sacrifices intertwined, the air crackled with energy. Flames leapt high, dancing like vengeful spirits, wrapping around the grotesque blooms that trembled before them. An otherworldly brightness filled the garden as the darkness recoiled, screeching as it fought against the flames that tore through the very fabric of the cursed realm, but as the blaze grew, a dreadful shadow loomed above them, larger than before. It was the figure, towering and terrible, its laughter now echoing with rage. "You fools! You think embers can burn bridges? You have invoked my wrath." The shadows began to reform around them, coiling and curling, gathering potency from sacrificial energy. The air grew thicker, suffocating, while the flames sparked and flickered, waging war against the gathering darkness. An agonizing tension crackled through the crowd of shadows, each flicker of light drawing on their finery of despair. "Mom!" Tommy cried, his small voice barely a whisper above the chaos. "What is happening? We can't let it win." In that moment, Sarah locked eyes with him. The fire flickered, casting shadows across their faces, every painful reminiscence flashing like a slideshow in the flames. They had already sacrificed so much. What more could they possibly give? "Tommy," she hesitated, heart racing. "What if we give everything?" Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, a torrent of darkness desperately clawing at the flames. The cloaked figure thundered, "Give it all." "No. Just you try it." Their breaths intertwined, each heartbeat matching the swell of flames. In that split second, the garden trembled again, fissures in the ground revealing a void. What was hiding beneath the surface? Would they fall into darkness or be freed forever? The shadows howled in fury, as Sarah and Tommy braced for the inevitable confrontation. What had they truly unleashed? Would their final sacrifice illuminate the depths of the darkness, or lead them deeper into a nightmare? The darkness roared and pulsed, thrumming with anticipation as if it were alive, desperate to claim their souls. Sarah held Tommy close, their bodies trembling against the encroaching shadows that fought back against their fire. "Mom!" he cried, fear lacing his voice, "I don't want to lose you." "Then we won tea," Sarah shouted, her resolve igniting alongside the flames. An ancient power surged within her, fueled by the fear she was ready to defy. She felt Tommy's hand firm in hers, their bond became an anchor in the storm. "We can do this, Tommy. We'll show them what love means." As they faced the looming figure, their hearts synchronized in a rhythm of defiance. The cloaked entity twisted, its shadows writhing, trying to snuff out their light. "You think this fire will save you?" it sneered, "all you do is feed the darkness." Your moment of defiance won tea changed destiny. But Sarah was not backing down. She had come too far, faced too many horrors. "We choose to fight. We will break the curse." With those words, she unleashed the flames with an intensity she had never known. They expanded outward, a brilliant wave racing toward the grotesque blooms, igniting everything in their path. "Together!" Sarah screamed, feeling Tommy squeeze her hand tighter. She raised her other arm, amplifying the flames even higher. Smoke billowed, but rather than weakening their fire, it fueled it, feeding off their pain and fear, transforming it into fierce resolve. The figures confined within the shadows shrieked, their arrhythmic cries swelling as the flames engulfed them. The cloaked figure screamed in agony, its eyes burning brighter, fury spilling into the garden. You think you're free of me? This curse will follow you until the end of time. Not if we choose to cut the ties. Tommy shouted, channeling every ounce of bravery he had. Sarah focused on the light, on their burning passion, weaving her and Tommy's energy together, a brilliant tapestry of courage. Together. They cried in unison. The flames erupted, seizing the cloaked figure, incinerating it in a blinding flash. The shadows shrieked their last breath before dissolving into ashes, which scattered in the wind like forgotten whispers. As the fire engulfed the garden, the ground quaked violently beneath them. Hold on! Sarah yelled, pulling Tommy tighter as the colors of the garden began to fade, crumbling away as the burning light expanded. With a final roar, the darkness fractured, white-hot flames consuming the malevolent energy that had long lingered. And finally, just as they thought they would be dragged into the inferno with it, there was silence. A breathtaking stillness enveloped them, and the flames extinguished in an ethereal glow that illuminated everything around them. They stood transfixed, surrounded by a gleaming expanse, washed in the golden light of a new dawn. The garden disappeared, replaced by a vivid blue sky, the stench of decay replaced with the scent of new beginnings. Did we do it? Tommy's voice cracked, wide-eyed and hopeful. I think we did, sweetheart. Sarah smiled, heart bursting with relief. Together, they walked forward into the bright light, feeling the warmth flooding over them like a gentle embrace, but the echoes of Millfield were not completely gone. They lingered like a soft whisper in the back of her mind, a reminder of darkness faced and the strength it took to overcome it. Mom, do you think it'll ever come back? Tommy asked, his small face turned up towards hers, still pressed against her side, searching for reassurance. Maybe, Sarah said gently, tightly wrapping her arm around him. But we now know how to fight it. As long as we're together, nothing is stronger than our love. With hope anchoring them, they stepped beyond Millfield's shadow, heartbeats synchronized, ready to face whatever came next. They had unseated darkness, and for the first time in a long time, their burdens felt lighter, and as the sun shone down, Millfield's haunting still echoes in the distance, they found solace in their victory, nurturing a bond that will endure together, always. Together, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories, smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.